Hi, this is Matt with Custom Car Grills. In this video I'm going to show you how to use an adhesive to attach mesh to a car grill. I went ahead and removed the grill from the vehicle, and in this case there's also a black plastic lining that I've also removed. Next, you'll want to measure out how much mesh you're going to need for the project. In this case I'm going to use a 12-inch tall by 48-inch wide sheet of the small diamond mesh. Once you've selected the size and style of the mesh you're going to use, now it's time to make a template of the grill shapes that you're going to need to cut out. In this case, it's a very simple shape, and I'm just going to outline the area I need to cut with a felt pen. With some store-bought tin snips, I'm going to go ahead and cut out the outside part of the grill shape here. Then I'll go ahead and do a rough test fit to make sure that I'm on the right track. Now it's time to cut out the individual shapes for each slot of this Jeep grill. As you can see, the mesh is fairly easy to cut just with a basic pair of tin snips. Make sure you keep track of which pieces go to which slot. In this case, they are very specific as to where they go. While I was test fitting these pieces, I noticed that there was a couple tabs that was preventing the mesh from laying flat on the back side of the grill. The sections that have tabs will have to have the mesh modified to fit flush. In this part here you can see I'm going to go ahead and take the felt pen again and mark out the area where the tab is. Then with a pair of tin snips I'm going to go ahead and notch out the mesh where I'd marked it off with the pen. This needs to be a precise cut because any misalignment on this piece will show a gap in the front. This should be how the grill looks on the back now with all of the notches made. Now it's time to take some of the mesh pieces and reduce them down a little bit. They were a little too big to fold over on the edges, so I'm going to go ahead and take the pen here again and kind of mark off a little bit of the excess that I should be able to trim away with some tin snips. Now it's just a matter of cutting along the line. This is a fairly easy step, but make sure you don't trim off too much. There still needs to be some material that folds along the edge of this grill. While I repeated this step for some of the other sections of the grill, I did notice that the outside pieces need further notching to account for a lower tab that I previously did not think was going to be an issue. Again, this part needs to be a precise cut as any misalignment will show. In this case, I notched it with no trouble. Now it's time to loosely attach the mesh to the grill. In this case, I'm just using some basic 11-inch nylon ties. What I'm doing here is just simply holding the mesh on in place where I'm going to want it for its final installation. You aren't going to want to fasten down the center of these inserts yet. That'll come into play a little bit later on. In this case, we just want the top and the bottom secured down. In some applications where you're not able to use nylon ties to secure the mesh on, you'll need to use clamps to get this accomplished. Here's what the grill looks like with all of the nylon ties installed. Now it's time to form the mesh around the back side of these openings. In this case, I'm using just a basic flathead screwdriver. This is a fairly tedious process. It took me about half hour to get the entire grill done. The important part to take note here is you want to get the mesh as close to the outside of that opening as possible. This is where we're going to be attaching it to, so it needs to be a snug fit. In some cases where you're going around a tight corner, you will need to cut the mesh to separate the horizontal and the vertical sections. Here's a preview of our work thus far. And now I'm going to show you a close-up of the forming process in real time. This hasn't been sped up like some of the previous footage. Once you complete this step for all of the sections, it should look something like this. Here's the fully finished grill ready for installation. Even close up, you can see all of the mesh pieces have conformed down and contour very well to the stock shape. Now it's going to be time to go ahead and fasten down the center part of the mesh. This is going to be a very similar process to what we used in the upper and the lower sections to tie those on. This part of the installation is needed to get the best possible fit when the adhesive cures. And here's what the grill looks like right before the final installation. Next, I'll show you how to use the automotive goop to get a bond between the mesh and the stock grill. Be sure to use this product in a very well ventilated area. As you can see here, I'm just simply spreading the adhesive along the side of the grill mesh. Try to avoid getting any of the adhesive in an area that's going to be seen. This is all supposed to be behind the grill. When it's all cured and finished, you won't see any of this at all. Try to avoid getting any of the adhesive in an area such as a tab or a screw hole where reinstallation of the stock grill will be more difficult. If you're using this product near a painted surface that's going to show on the front, you might want to mask it off before using the adhesive. In some areas, such as corners, you might want to go and do a second application of this adhesive. Sometimes one round's just not enough. Here's a close-up of me gooping this grill in real time. As you can see here, I'm just simply spreading the adhesive on the mesh while trying to avoid any critical parts of the grill that will make it hard for reinstallation. Here's what the grill is going to look like gooped and ready to be cured. This adhesive takes about 24 hours to be fully set up, so I'm going to let it set overnight and then come back tomorrow. As the adhesive cures overnight, it will start to run down the sides slowly. In this case, I need to lay the grill flat so that it goes down on the back side of the grill. Now I've come back to this grill after a day. I'm going to go ahead and remove all of the nylon ties here. You can see that a large portion of this adhesive is settled at the bottom overnight. If you notice you've missed any areas, this is the time to go back and redo those with the adhesive. This is what your mesh grill is going to look like now, fully complete. And this is already cured, and the mesh is fully bonded to the stock grill. You can really see where we've notched out the areas that were troublesome before, and it looks very clean now. This is also a good time to test the strength of the installation. You'll probably want to go ahead and tap on the mesh to make sure that it's firmly attached. Overall, this installation takes a little bit more time than some of the others, but it really pays off because it looks great. Even close up here in the front, you can't see any signs at all of the installation. This is really just a flawless look. If you have any questions about this installation or anything else you've seen, feel free to email me.